Happy Halloween from the Demo Dive. I'm CB, hosting this round of spooky, or at least Halloween-themed demos. I add that because the first couple I ran today don't exactly scream spooky, but we're into the nighttime now. At least I am. Your mileage may vary depending on what continent you're on. And it's time to get a bit spookier. Hopefully. If the damn thing doesn't record upside down again halfway through. Apparently this has been a thing on OBS for 5 years, so I guess I should be thankful that I only got it recently. And things seem to be working okay for right now. Just I'm a little bit paranoid about technical issues, given that they kept me off stream for most of the week. Anyway, less bitching over technical stuff, more game. The game is Before They Catch Us by ANTertainment. It's a text-based adventure game in the vein of Black Tabby Games' offerings, and the premise is fascinating to me. Fungus spores have been released by a cataclysm, and the result is an advancing mushroom forest and, well, from the sounds of things, approximately what you'd get if you took the cordyceps concept from The Last of Us and added myconids and something that feels kind of cultish. Or at least that's the read I'm getting. So, the mushroom forest advances, eating or infecting everything in its path, and cities become caravans just to keep ahead of it. I'm guessing we're supposed to be directing the caravan to keep one step ahead of becoming some kind of cross between, I don't know, Branch Davidians and clickers? Stretching a metaphor there, and I guess not a lot of people remember Waco anyway, which is why I didn't go with Kool-Aid metaphors, because people probably know that even less, or at least the full history behind it. I may be dwelling, anything that goes to the highly evangelical or cultish place quite literally triggers me if I'm not careful with how I approach it, so I'm hoping I'm whistling past the fungus-infested graveyard here. Anyway, I won't know until we try. So, sitting comfortably? Great. Let's begin. I won't know until we try. So, sitting comfortably?
Long ago, the earth opened up. From the cracks rose the first spores, the breath of the mushroom forest. It did not grow, it advanced. It grew into flesh, into mind, into souls. Thus, the United Ones appeared, the bearers of the will of the forest, parts of its mind. The forest knew no rest. It died behind and grew forward like hunger, like a curse. People understood one can survive only in motion. Thus began the path. Cities turned into caravans, civilizations into fugitives. In the name of purity, in the name of salvation. And with this race came visions. They come to me. I see the white city, but the images slip away. Will I be able to lead the clan to a new life, or will we all disappear in the traces of the forest?
Okay, well, slightly less cultish than I was afraid of. Good. I snapped awake feeling a strong, nauseating scent of moldiness. Seething silently at another night of broken sleep, I groped for the tent's flap and stepped out in search of some fresh air, letting my eyes sweep the surroundings. There was little comfort beyond the tent either. The heavens were a common, weary gray. We had not glimpsed the sun in what felt like ages, and the atmosphere was every bit as stagnant as inside. The caravan still lay in slumber. From somewhere behind the camp came a faint whistling and humming of a rather indecent tune, carried by the all-too-familiar voice of Benji. Casting a glance past the tent, I spotted him returning from the east, with a mock frown edged across his face. One hand of his was brushing his mustache, while the other flicked a small wave and a wordless boast about something he carried. "Cheer up, master! Our old neighbor crawls faster than any fine woo mare. Have you ever seen companions so faithful? I dug this up but 40 paces from camp. The earth is riddled through with it. Approaching carefully, I pulled on a glove and inspected Benji's find. A revolting sight. The rotting clump of soil was filled with fungal threadlings and was scarcely recognizable as ground. The forest is already this close, and only yesterday it seemed we had halted far enough away. There was never leisure in our lives. Motion had to be constant. Should one falter, and the forest would catch up to them, spreading, absorbing them, draining what remains of their will and reason. The forest was already at our doorstep. Spores so near could soon be perilous, which meant we had to set out immediately. Yet the Song of Purity dictated that the clan perform a prayer before breaking camp, and I, an apprentice to the prophet, stood before a weighty choice. The forest was already at our doorstep. Spores so near could soon be perilous, which meant we had to set out immediately. We'll conduct the prayer and hope. The choice was never truly difficult, it only appeared so. Every ritual we performed was no mere formality. These customs were tempered by ages of suffering and loss. The ancestors' guidance is one of the rare gifts that let us endure, and we shall abide by their instructions. Still, it would be wise not to linger. Benji helped me rouse the others. The prayer must be held without delay. Assemble them all at the fireplace. In a matter of minutes, just over 30 barely awake, discontented faces had gathered in the center of the camp. Together, we prepared to speak the words repeated through countless generations of our ancestors. Purity of flesh, purity of spirit, purity of mind, purity of heart. May the ashes of our forebears shield us from the malice of the united. May our righteous path be light, and our journey stretch far. Purity of flesh, purity of spirit, purity of mind, purity of heart. I brought forth the ceremonial urn, which felt chillingly cold in my hands. Taking a pinch of the ash that bound generations, I lifted it above our heads. The wind, as if guided by the spirits of ancestors, caught the particles and scattered them over my brothers. People raised their hands, receiving the ash with closed eyes and quiet gratitude. When it was all done, I bowed low to those gathered and ordered the departure. I drew near my war mare, a stubborn and mighty creature with its eyes dull with indifference. Climbing onto its back, I gave the cargo knots one last inspection. Everything was secure and reliable. When it was all done, I bowed low to those gathered. Just as the caravan had readied itself for the journey, a figure appeared from the west. It was the chief of our clan and my master, the prophet Guradin. Older by far than any among us, he had a twisted, desiccated form. His face bore a web of deep wrinkles, and the small patches of exposed skin were a map of scars, strange warts, and old burn marks. His war mare, itself long past his prime, carried a load of freshly picked herbs bound into tidy bundles. The prophet's gaze was not on us approaching him, but sought something beyond the camp. I rode forward to speak with him. The mycelium had almost reached beneath our tents. We had to break camp immediately. The prophet turned away and began moving westward, signaling for me and the caravan to follow. Beneath the tents, you say? Did you touch it? Guradin regarded me with a piercing, wary gaze. Master, you know full well that I can manage the contagion. Besides, Benji was there with me. Benji also laid hands on the mycelium? In that case, I will examine you both for the first signs and fumigate you with herbs. It seems the forest is pressing harder now, expanding at an ever faster pace. We'll be forced to alter our times of rest again. Master, lately I cannot shake this troubling thought. We cannot keep fleeing the forest forever. Messages from other clans have grown ever rarer, as though our decades are numbered. Perhaps we should seek deeper knowledge of the forest? Try to understand its frailties? Master, lately I cannot shake this. It was as if Guradin had just been seared by a sudden flame. You! Can you sincerely not see by what mechanism we have lost those brothers to the forest? Should I have Linda recall for you what made us burn her husband? Was there a single time when we truly needed to be less careful? It took me a few seconds to respond, but Guradin, now visibly darkened, continued. I have far too much to teach you, young one. Should I have Linda recall for you what made us burn her husband? But this is no good time for lessons. Ahead, I heard a horn. We are catching up to another clan. We must prepare the exchange ritual. Go and inform everyone. By our sacred custom, whenever two caravans cross paths, they exchange unmarried girls. Caravans that neglected this tradition incurred the wrath of our ancestors and were struck with disease and weakness, aka inbreeding. I learned of this when they took my sister. She was barely 2 cycles old, around 12 years, and I have heard nothing of her since. Our way of life forces us to accept such losses. Longing is dangerous. Give in to its temptation, and it robs you of the drive to move forward. We teach our children to focus solely ahead and to embrace what is unavoidable, but that does not make parting any easier. The other caravan we soon caught up with belonged to the Ailey clan, but the joint halt came only as night approached, since we had to get as far as we could from the forest. And with the halt came the time for the ritual. Both clans gathered round the central fire, and the prophet of the Ailey clan threw 5 bundles of herbs into the flames, one for each girl participating in the exchange. With ashes, a circle was traced around the fire, and the girls began to cross to the other side, one after another. I began to speak the words, which were taken up by both clans. Purity in the journey, purity in the blood, purity in the memory. Having spoken the words, I studied the faces in the crowd. Among the young, one could see flickers of incomprehension, but with age, their expressions grew colder and more detached. Even Benji's eyes were glassy, fixed on some distant height. His whiskers appeared pressed flat beneath the weight of indifference, stripped of their ordinary animation. I have concerns. Yet the night also had joys to be found. For dinner, along with herb flatbreads and a berry broth, whose flavor had become wearisome, a war mare's trunk was roasted. The clans again gathered around the fire, eating, drinking, and telling unremarkable stories of their dull lives. Then someone brought up the White City, the ancient legend of a place built of pure stone, inhabited by beautiful beings untouched by the forest's influence. The discussion grew lively, though even the children considered it little more than a tale. Long ago, back when we were traversing the Lochteran Heights, I heard a tale of a prophet who claimed the path to the White City had been revealed to him. He commanded his clan to fell trees from the forest, construct a pot of incredible size, and launch it onto the water. Allegedly, it would carry them to the city. No story like that can simply have a happy ending, right? The lunatic sank almost 100 souls in the accursed sea. They say the sea has roiled ever since, from the blood poured into it while the spores were feasting upon the dead of the Morhel clan. He's already angry with me, hell with it. Gurudin dismissed the prophet as a fool, yet I saw a man desperate, weary, ready to seize any chance to break the cycle. I wondered what the people were thinking, trusting the prophet. Surely they knew they would die, yet they gave their lives for the faint hope of securing a peaceful future for their children. I know not whether the White City truly exists, but if it does, why would it lie in the middle of the deadliest waters in the world? One prophet succumbed to the hope of an easy fate, and it drove him mad, dooming everyone he'd sought to protect. The prophet of the Ailey clan, only slightly younger than Gurudin, continued with a small chuckle. In days past, when clans were more numerous, stories of prophets' madness echoed far and wide, and I swear I would sooner drown than share the fate of most of them. Death is the end of all motion and striving. No prophet would ever accept it. Yet there was only one fate that we all feared more. They became one with the forest. Thus appeared the first of the cultists. The forest lured them into servitude with the promise of a semblance of existence, while fungus grew beneath their skin and wove into their veins. They murmured prayers to the Unified until their voices failed entirely. We saw them just 2 weeks ago, rotting, hollow. All that remained of those people was a mangled shell. It seemed they intended to take one of us for some ritual, but we fought them off. The conversations went on until the last remnants of sunlight sank below the horizon, and all brothers dispersed to their tent. Most of them fell asleep in high spirits after the festive dinner, while I faced yet another long and arduous night. Disturbing visions came haunting me with increasing frequency. Occasionally, they were of use, but more often they seemed like nothing more than a chaotic succession of events. I could not understand why it was happening to me, and that troubled me more than anything. A fading outline of, I'm assuming, a man was slowly moving away from my sight. Barely lifting his feet, he walked through a vast emptiness. Or perhaps it was a mist, through which I could see nothing but the hunched shape. I swept my hand before me, trying to part the thick haze to grasp the thread of the vision. My eyes cleared slightly, the image sharpened, and then I saw... Let's have something nice, shall we? Something magnificent. A lot of people scurried somewhere forth, every face glowing bright with a cheer. There were more of them than I'd ever seen in one place, some from my clan, others I could not recognize, but something else struck me even more. The buildings. I had never seen anything that large. 10 meters high, made of pale stone, shrouded in a thin layer of mist. It felt so strange to see something other than tents. Everything was so white that it glowed through the gray haze. And through the crowd walked a man in a cloak. I saw him only from behind and could not make him out properly until he turned around. The face still blurred, hidden in the mist. Still, the figure was tall and graceful, possessing something exquisite. It took my hand, sending a chill through me, as though its skin was carved from the same stone as the surrounding structures. She led me forward. I obeyed. As we walked, she repeated over and over, "I will guide you." Again and again, her voice was calm, almost velvet. "I will guide you. I will guide you." Or perhaps it was something else speaking. Perhaps the voices came from the crowd, the voices of my brothers, sisters, their children, an unceasing hum. Finally, we stopped, and then the brightest light blinded me, as if the sun had risen directly behind my eyelids. Vision interpretation, huh? The visions are shrouded in mist and uncertainty. There should not be an I there. To uncover the true meaning, I have to interpret them as Guradine had taught me. Everything I saw may be a manifestation of one of the three entities: purity, vitality, and malice. I have identified the following elements of the vision: people, the figure, the city. Purity. Naturally, visions are set upon us by the ancestors to keep us walking the path of traditions. Their signs might urge us to perform sacred rituals or warn us of the price for forsaking them. Vitality. Visions ensure the survival of the clan. They guide us to food, show us the way to avoid sickness, and reveal shelters to hide from our foes. For a seer, making out such omens is vital to life itself. Malice. The forest, too, may weave its deceptions into these visions. I must discern its malicious infusions in time and strip them from the prophecies. Now I must interpret what I saw. People, the figure, the city. So, the city has to do with vitality. People have to do with purity. Oh, okay, so that sends us back. Okay, oopsie. Okay. Now interpret. That city has to do with vitality. Give it a try. Finish interpretation. So many people. The ancestors wanted me to see what will come of our clan. Have the traditions be abided by. That sentence makes no sense. The figure possessed a voice so pure and velvety. She appeared to be the very antithesis of all maladies. The city appeared vast and secure. Perhaps its quest is the sole means to rescue the clan from the forest clutches. Something is off. Reality poured into me through all my senses at once. It was scarcely a restful dream, yet the first rays of dawn had already shone through the tent walls. Outside, a war mare's drawn-out moo echoed. Someone wanted my attention. Stepping out of the tent, I found Guradine waiting. The prophet drew a breath, giving me a few moments to get used to the light, then gestured me to follow as he headed towards the edge of the camp. Quickly grabbing my pouch and my cloak, I hurried after my mentor. "What is on your mind, boy? Your face shouts that something weighs on you." "Master, I would like to ask for your help. For over a month I have been plagued by heavy dreams. The visions cling to me even during the day. They present countless nebulous forms, difficult to unravel, yet I sense that something vital is hidden among them. No means exists to restore your peace without taking away your gift, but that you know already. Do you wish for me to perform the ritual, so that you can peer into the essence of your visions? It may be dangerous." "Yes, Master. Still, all these visions, you told me that only through them do we acquire the knowledge essential for survival. Are frequent visions not a token of the ancestors' favor?" "We shall perform the ritual today, then, and perhaps we get to learn something. Yet be vigilant, my boy, for daytime visions may come as both gift and affliction, and what they show is not always to our benefit." "Could the ancestors allow such a thing? Is it not in their hands to decide what we see?" "The ancestors wrap us in a fog of visions, but only our eyes bear the burden of drawing sense from it. Do not forget, the forest is not merely the mushrooms growing behind us. It is sentient, and it will take pleasure in disrupting our plans." "Master, I keep my caution even in common dreams, and the commandments of the song are never absent from my mind. Yet I beg you, help me grasp what it is the ancestors truly wish to say." "If the ancestors wished for me to interpret these visions, they would have sent them to me. But set aside thoughts of your nightmares for now. What concerns me more is this." We approached the edge of the camp. A few brothers and sisters stood there, whispering to each other with evident concern. The girl who had joined us yesterday appeared especially frightened. On the road forward lay a body, wholly wrapped in mycelium, forming a cocoon which pulsed faintly, digesting its interior. "Odds are pretty good that's Benji. Could it be one of ours?" No, all our brothers are safe. Oh, good. This poor soul is a stranger, yet we must still show him respect before the spores have spread." Guradine had already struck the flint, preparing to light the torch, but before we burn it, we must do the prayer. The prophet nodded and began to speak, and I joined him in voice. The infected were extremely dangerous, and we had no purifier gear to guarantee our safety. And what could inspecting yet another unfortunate one achieve? Our voices merged in the song of purity. The words of the prayer rang with unusual clarity, evoking a sense of unity. They mesmerized, enveloped the mind, slowly replacing reality with a new vision appeared before my eyes. From everywhere came the blended murmur of water. It was hard to tell exactly what it was, raindrops hitting the earth, waves slapping stones, or the soft trickle of a nearby stream. I just sensed that water was omnipresent. I found myself looking for rivers. Benji always urged me to watch for them in my visions. He believed that if, in a dream, the clan was crossing a river, it was a sign to mate the war mares. But there was no river. All around, a thick, dense fog concealed everything. To disperse it, I closed my eyes and began reciting the prayer, following the Master's teachings. Purity of flesh, purity of spirit, purity of mind, purity of heart. May the ashes of our forebears shield us from the malice of the ones, and may our The prayer was broken by a hiss. Dull, wet, as if I'm pretty sure, slithered into my ears. I knew not to open my eyes before the prayer ended. Such was the rule. Yet an overwhelming sense pressed upon me that I was losing something of immense importance. Visions are fickle and fragile things. They fade the instant you dare to blink. We finished the prayer. We're devout. The rule existed for a reason. It guarded the boundary between me and what lay beyond. A single glance, taken at the wrong time, had cost too many prophets their minds. I would not repeat their mistake. And with every next word of the prayer, the hissing gradually subsided. When it quieted fully, I opened my eyes. Before me stood the prophet who had led his clan to the White City. His face was unknown to me, unseen until now, and yet I could not doubt his identity. He stared into me, deep and unrelenting, as though he meant to read every line of my being, to peel my soul open and examine my thoughts one by one. There was something painfully familiar in his gaze, the same calm I had seen in the eyes of my own master, not a trace of the madness the legend spoke of. Was he worthy of trust? After all, he might be yet another illusion sent by the forest. But I knew I would regret it if I didn't dare to ask the question that had long haunted me. The White City in your visions. How did you know it was real? How did you discern that it was not a legend, an illusion, or the voice of the forest? Why did you decide to abandon tradition and lead your clan straight into the boiling sea? The prophet did not rush to answer, and continued to regard me with a thoughtful gaze. And how do you distinguish vision from reality, young man? How do you know whether you are standing on solid ground and are not instead dreaming, carried away by a vision? You are still young and view visions like paintings to be deciphered, but each time you do, you scratch the very canvas on which they are drawn. For masters, however, visions are not riddles, but voices that speak with us plainly. My master said that one such vision dragged your entire clan beneath the waves. Why are you still certain that visions speak the truth to you? Did no one in your clan ever dare to doubt you? His features began to blur slowly, dissolving into the mist. Young man, you and your master have heard of me only through legends. Legends that speak of the clan who set out in search of the White City and vanished without a trace. Why did you conclude that it signifies our destruction? He moved closer, extending his arms. A faint smile formed on his face, which was nearly all mist. Better hand this to me for a moment. I can help you. In that very instant, Unum Immortale appeared in my hands, the book I had been translating in secret, night after night. A manuscript on the mind of the forest, its structure, written by the cultists. The prophet took it gently, running his hand across the cover as if brushing off dust. He muttered something I could not discern. Either his voice was too quiet, or perhaps he spoke in another language entirely. Then he blew across the pages, and his breath lifted the yellow sheets ever so slightly. The symbols on the pages flared, bathed in moonlight, and began to swirl in the air. I watched the glyphs dancing in stunned silence, and did not even notice when he placed the book back into my hands. The mist swallowed him completely. Only a white veil remained. I slowly closed my eyes and completed the prayer. The vision vanished. So it has to do with vitality. The book has to do with malice. Well, it has to do with purity. That doesn't necessarily mean that it's, strictly speaking, true. The White City was the only reliable refuge from the forest for the Moorhell clan. The forest constantly tempts me to use the book. I will exercise utmost caution while studying it. The Prophet of Moorhell became one of the ancestors and now guides us. Obviously, we are interpreting the legend of the White City incorrectly. Something is off. I wake up in my tent. Beside me sat Benji, smiling as usual, settled into his habitual pose. I tried to rise, but a sharp pain pierced my head. Quietly groaning, I sank back into the furs. Well, looks like you've been hit hard this time, Master. Think your head's gonna hold up? Benji, please stop calling me that. I haven't even earned the 3rd ring yet, and apparently it'll be a long time before I do. I know. And yet, my friend, you will always be a master to me. Why? And why is that? By tradition, you should... Benji cut me off. You were still very young when I earned my first and only ring. Gurudin considered me capable, praised me constantly, and I picked things up instantly. For me, interpreting my visions was easy, and there were plenty of them, too. Wait, you studied under the Master? You never told me that. But how did he let you walk away? Any seer is supposed to remain an apprentice to the Prophet until they earn the third ring. I know this all too well. Gurudin hammered it into my head long before you were born. Trouble is, one day... He faltered. His expression turned serious, which was entirely unlike him. One day the vision simply left me, and no ritual of Gurudin's could bring them back. It felt as if someone had torn my eyes from their sockets. Worst of all, there were no other seers in the clan. All the hopes placed upon me crumbled. But then you appeared, and I felt immediate relief. That is why, Master, I owe you for life. His face lit up with a smile again, his mustache twitching, wrinkles dancing around his eyes. He stood and clapped me on the shoulder. Well, get up already. I muttered to myself thoughtfully. The cultists had some kind of ritual. They can summon visions without the aid of the ancestors, something involving the liquid from the roots of the forest. And how did you learn about such a ritual? Seems like during the stop with the Whittlemore a couple of months ago, their prophet mentioned it in conversation. I caught myself mid-slip. I couldn't possibly reveal to him now that I had read it in the stolen cultist book, a secret I had told no one. Whittlemore? You had better heard the nonsense their shepherd told me, this needs so much editing in some places, about war mares. If it weren't for the exchange ritual, I wouldn't have spent a single minute listening to them. Alright then, Master, I'd better get going. My little darling has probably been waiting ages for her walk. He stood, shook out his tunic, and left the tent. I remained alone, left with my thoughts. I pondered at Gurudin's words that we might be dealing with a curse. Maybe these visions began to trouble me because I was studying the Unum Immortale? Reading the writings of the cultists would clearly not have pleased the ancestors. Some of them would even have considered me tainted. But surely they know I only want to use my understanding of the forest solely to oppose it. Could the book itself be inherently dangerous? Perhaps it is smeared with something, or the very ink is made from poisonous mushrooms. Still, even if that were true, it's far too late to undo anything. I realized it only now. On the other hand, the visions have only become more frequent recently, while I began translating it months ago. The puzzle simply wouldn't come together. Something was amiss. My thoughts started scattering just when I needed to focus. After a while of pondering, I sat down to catch my breath and took a sip of the berry tincture. It didn't matter whether the book had triggered this or something else. The chance to change the fate of my clan was right in front of me. Everything in my visions pointed unmistakably toward the White City. It was time to get my answers. It was time to seek out Gurudin. Yet the closer I drew to the Prophet's tent, the more doubt and anxiety grew on me. Something within me hinted that I would not emerge from the ritual the same person. I took the final step inside. Runes were already inscribed on the rocky ground. The scent of various herbs pierced my nose like an arrow, seeping straight into my mind and making it spin. I barely kept my footing. In the center stood the ceremonial urn, adorned with the faces of the clan's 4 founders. A faint glow emanated from it. Perhaps it was only a reflection off the polished metal in the smoky room, or perhaps a subtle smile from the ancestors aiding the ritual. The traditions dictated, "He who in the ritual seeks to partake, that the purity of his flesh be revealed, his body must bear. He who in the ritual seek to partake, that unblemished nature of his spirit be proclaimed, a pinch of dust must breathe in. He who in the ritual seeks to partake, that the clarity of his mind be shown, a prayer must utter, and his master for aid must entreat. He who in the ritual seeks to partake, that the innocence of his heart be proven, a drop of his blood upon the earth must let fall." I obeyed the song without question. Meanwhile, the herbs had already filled my lungs to the brim. Every fiber of my senses was taut with tension. I could see every ant crawling across the ground. hear the whispers from neighboring tents, yet I strove to pay them no mind. I stretched my bleeding hand to the prophet. He dusted the gash with powder. A sharp, stabbing pain radiated through my wrist, yet the blood began to clot swiftly. Clenching my hand into a fist, I spoke, "I am ready, master," and closed my eyes. Scarlet shapes veined with black danced behind my eyelids, and the shades of the forebears flickered between the walls of the tent, their voices low, whispering, conferring. The prophet's already imposing figure seemed to swell even further. Half dazed, I thought Gurridin bore 3 arms, one sketching runes in the air, one driving forth the incense haze, and a third spectral limb was reaching for the ancestors themselves. Something was burning, something knocking, something hissing. Mist began to fill the space around me. The vision seeped into my reality, blurring the tent and Gurridin from sight. I found myself in a vast hall, constructed entirely of white stone. The vaulted ceilings soared beyond my ability to perceive. White light poured in through immense translucent stones of varying hues, filling the hall with a surreal radiance. I walked a few steps to shake off the drowsiness and approached the massive columns that stretched high into the mist. I had seen similar pillars in the ruins of sanctuaries where we celebrated the new cycles, yet those were far smaller and far from white, lined with cracks and the scars left by repeated invasions of the mushroom forest. Hearing a crack, I turned around. Several mysterious figures stood before me. The tallest leaned down toward me, offering a hand, and spoke. "Come to us, and we will guide you, child." I closed my eyes and quickly recited the lines of the prayer. Purity of flesh, purity of spirit, purity of mind, purity of heart. Yet the figures did not vanish. They waited patiently, as if expecting response from me. Convinced this was no mere vision, I extended my hand in return. The tall figure led me forward, speaking in a soft, feminine voice like a lullaby. We walked through the long white halls, adorned with intricate patterns and elaborate stone sculptures. "Do you, child, not wish to live as the ancestors once did, before the world took the shape you know? To dwell in eternal stone homes like this? To tend the plants with your own hands, and year after year reap the fruits from the same vine? To live in a world where people are not divided into clans, but all exist together in unity?" Okay, that's a little concerning. I nodded, my voice lost to awe and wonder. "Then walk this path with us, so that your brothers may follow in your footsteps. I will reveal to you the transformations you so desperately seek." Then we found ourselves in a vast hall, at the center of which was a massive ring of stone. Its outer surface was covered in unfamiliar runes, while inside, water rippled gently. The elder figure raised a hand, and above the ring appeared a large sphere, reflecting the entire world in far greater detail than any of our maps. On this sphere, a line of light began tracing a path. I recognized its starting point. We just recently passed through it. But then, the line ended abruptly. I was unable to speak a word, and could only point to the spot, striving to draw attention of the figures. One of them took my hand and traced the path along the sphere with my finger, prolonging the line. A glowing trail lingered where my finger had passed. Suddenly, a thunderous crack resounded. The structure splintered like ice, and mist began seeping through the fissures. The figures began to blur and dissolve before my eyes, as if scattered by someone unseen. No! I still hadn't glimpsed where we were meant to go! A sensation gripped me, as if some hand had seized my throat and was dragging me into the fog. I could struggle against it or yield and see where it might lead me. I'll try to stay. I gathered every ounce of strength into my fist, resisting the foreign will that sought to wrest sacred knowledge from me. I stared into the haze ahead, searching desperately for something, anything to fix my gaze upon. I succeeded, and soon one of the figures emerged from the mist once more. I'm glad you're still here, child. By staying with us, you have proven the sincerity of your quest for knowledge. I nodded. A surge of impatience to uncover the answers coursed through me, mingled with a quiet pride for having resisted the malevolent force that had tried to interfere. Shall I continue, then? We are aware of your secret, the one you so carefully hide from your brothers. Yet we also know that through it you have already saved several lives. We know that your brothers are grateful to you, and we too are grateful. The truth is, the first people to encounter the forest were weak, foolish, and short-sighted. They feared everything connected to it. Their dread of the unknown stifled progress and gave rise to superstition. Before me, the sphere reappeared, and I saw that the path traced by the figure led straight into the forest. Not merely along the strip of the forest chasing us, but deep into its very heart. Into the place the mushroomed woods never abandon. Right into the navel where the forest connects with the rift descending into the earth's depths, from whence it first emerged. Do you understand, child? The forest's foremost law is that it always moves forward. It never stays. This means the place from which it emerged has long since emptied. There, in that truth, lies your key. Do not lose it. Follow it, and you will lead your clan to a new life. How am I supposed to reach it? That place isn't marked on any map, and even tales of it are considered cursed. And even if I do find it, the United will tear our clan to pieces. The figure remained silent. Suddenly, a misty image of a key appeared before me. I reached out and touched it, feeling the cold bite of metal as an icy reminder, compelling me to move forward, no matter the cost. In that very instant, stirred by a gust of wind, the fog dissolved entirely. I found myself back in my tent, eyes still closed. Figures. And it says forest. Key. Hopefully that's right. I have no idea. An evil will attempted to destroy my vision, but I am prepared to fight for the right to see the truth. The figures represented the ancestors, ready to guide me to a prosperous future. Over and over I see evil forces invading my visions, relentlessly attempting to draw me deeper into the heart of the forest. Not everything in the visions should be interpreted literally. The key to the White City lies in the purity of mind and body. Only those who carefully avoid the influence of the mushroom forest can reach the refuge. Something is off. I'm not getting any of these right, I'm almost certain. Spam bots are tampering. Don't mind me. I report these buggers whenever I can. When I opened my eyes, I saw the prophet lying on the ground. Blood dripped from his mouth as he coughed, each spasm harder than the last. The urn no longer emitted its faint glow, and the wind carried the smell of herbs out of the tent. It was all a mistake. We never should have... The cough tore through his words. He was choking, struggling to breathe, yet he pressed on. I was wrong. I was so wrong. Master! I rushed to Gurudin, trying to lift him to his feet. He rasped painfully in response, his bloodied eyes wide with agony. I didn't know what to do. I didn't understand what was killing him. I dashed to the table in search of a remedy, but no right elixirs were there, and brewing a new potion would take hours. Not a single damn thing here could save the prophet. I was powerless. Another harsh, rattling gasp, and then silence. With trembling hands, I searched for a heartbeat. Gurudin was gone, but I could not accept it. I closed his pale eyes, but I wasn't ready to bid farewell to my master, almost a father. In a surge of anger, I hurled all the vials from the table to the ground. Damn it! It couldn't end like this. I won't give up. I have to do something. Master, you can't leave like this. I've only glimpsed the first steps on the path to the White City. Now there was no one left to help me. I couldn't perform the new ritual alone, and no other prophet would ever agree to attempt it. I clenched my fists. Memories from my recent visions slowly surfaced from the depths of my mind, weaving together into a single sensible chain. I remembered the conversation with the prophet of the Morhel clan, recalling his enigmatic smile. I could not continue this journey without Gurudin, yet I knew where to look for a way to bring him back. Tradition demanded that we burn the bodies of the deceased. The corpses of the forest reach were devoured by it, but some of them we later saw return to life. I was about to commit an unspeakable crime against tradition. Yet, for the first time since the beginning of my path as a prophet, I was seized by a strange yet resolute certainty in my actions. I quietly slipped out of the tent, firmly drawing the coarse fabric behind me. No one would dare disturb a prophet during a ritual. The night shrouded the camp, and I glided between the tents, careful to draw no attention. Inside my tent, I found it, Unum Immortale, and began flipping through the pages, searching for some passage. I opened the book to the pages dedicated to Clara Captiosa. Just a few days ago, translating each line had demanded immense effort. Now I read the cultist recordings as if they'd been written in my native tongue. Clara Captiosa, the mushrooms from which everything begins and to which everything returns. In the cult, they were used to resurrect the dead. Fresh spores could restore consciousness to those who had already departed. Not permanently, but for a little while they could remain themselves. Infection always claimed its due, their bodies and minds decaying. How the cultists themselves remained human was a mystery I could only speculate upon. Gurudin, when I was still a child, used to say that all that is alive today is merely the consequence of mutation brought by the forest. It had penetrated the very essence of existence, and in one way or another, every living thing bore a fragment of it. Even the misty grass we used to enhance visions was nothing more than a hybrid of plants and fungi, which is why proper preparation before consumption was so crucial. Therefore, if I could obtain the spores of Clara Captiosa and extract their essence, there was a chance to bring the prophet back to life, a chance to persuade him to complete the ritual and reveal the path to the White City. I was certain that my ancestors would have understood me. I wrapped a scarf around my face tightly to guard against the spores, slung my sword at my waist, donned my gloves, and tossed the book into my pouch. Time pressed, and I had to act swiftly. Outside, night still held sway, the faint moonlight barely lighting the path. A few dozed by the campfire, no one paying any mind to my departure. I drew a deep breath and stepped into the darkness, into the place where the light ends and the forest begins. The further I walked, the harder each step became. The ground beneath my feet grew increasingly damp, squelching as if it were groaning. The forest knew I was on my way. Amid the darkness, fleshy growths began to emerge, strange fruits that quivered on their own as if moved by the will of something invisible. I stepped cautiously, knowing that any sudden movement could awake the forest denizens. The bodies of humans and animals appeared all around. Some had long since rotted, cloaked in tiny mushrooms. Others were nearly fresh. Thin tendrils reached for them, coiling, drawing them in, feeding on their flesh. The air thickened, becoming viscous like pitch. The spores in the air stung my eyes and skin, provoking an unbearable itch. Thousands of needle-like growths surrounded me, and I had no choice but to push through them deeper into the forest. Worst of all was the darkness. Seeing anything beyond the length of my outstretched arm was nearly impossible. Every step felt like a gamble with fate. Would I stumble into the vile, corpse-filled swamp, or press upon a nerve that might awaken the united? About 20 minutes later, I emerged into a clearing, encircled by the twisting roots of fungal trees. According to Unum Immortale, these trees served as the forest's circulatory system. Fluids from the pools were transported through the roots to areas where the forest lacked moisture. The upper fruits of the fungi absorbed all the light, forming a kind of canopy that maintained the coolness and dampness of the lower levels. It was slightly brighter here. Along the roots, fireflies pulsed, flickering through the slime. I stepped closer to examine one. Slow, like pale drops of blood, they were breathing? A chill of revulsion sank into my stomach. I recoiled, and something crunched beneath my foot. My heart skipped a beat. I froze. The forest stood still with me. Not a single sound. I couldn't even hear my own breathing, as if someone had ripped out my ears and left only the deathly silence. I began to look around, slowly. Through the torn gaps between the roots, from the viscous darkness, distorted figures slithered towards me. Their movements could not possibly exist in nature. Their bodies bent as if devoid of bones, yet the creatures maintained their shape and stood firmly on their feet. They trembled, convulsed as if in an endless seizure, but did not utter a single sound. As they came closer, I drew my sword. My heart pounded in my throat, cutting off my breath. I waited for the attack, but they did not move hastily. They simply stood, watching me, their faces pale as if smeared with ash. In the depths of their eye sockets glimmered a dim light, like the cold gaze of a predator. Where their mouths should have been, swollen masses of flesh protruded, bristling with teeth, as if their jaws had been turned inside out. Their fingers clawed, swollen, covered with pale blisters. From their backs sprouted entire clusters of fungi. They pulsed and writhed, releasing clouds of spores with every movement. And you know what? I've been at this for nearly an hour and a half now. And I'm going to leave y'all with this cliffhanger, same as I'm going to leave myself. This is fascinating, but I'm starting to get kind of hoarse. And this is going to be a lot of reading for me. But I don't know about you, but I'm real interested in where this is going to end up going. But that's about where I'm going to be leaving that one. Yeah, I mean, it's creepy as all hell, and fascinating, and I really love the world building they're doing. All the same, cruel as it is, that's quite enough of that. Thank you very much. The write-up for this and the rest of what I've done today will be up on Ko-fi by tomorrow. No fee to access it or anything. I'm not the paywalling type, and I really just want to show off demos and indie games in general as best I can. Coffee's nice, though. The VOD will be here on Twitch for as long as it'll let me keep it there at the moment, but will also be up on YouTube. Links to YouTube and Ko-fi are below somewhere. If you've enjoyed the stream, why not follow me on Twitch? 8 more followers to go before affiliate status. More flexible scheduling and maybe a charity stream or 2 is the main goal here. Yeah, being a medical secretary sucks sometimes, but the job's important, and that matters to me, so I'm not desperate to monetize. Now, I originally had Friday Night Demo Dive be the game in full, but the first 2 games I decided to try for that one weren't quite doing it for me, so I'm having to pull out a new one. Then I thought I was going to do Scarlet Hollow so I could be prepared for when Chapter 5 drops in a few months, but getting through that one at, say, 1 chapter for Friday is only going to take about a month, so we'll save that one for another time. Instead, because my supposed holiday has largely been stress over technical issues and associated nonsense, I am going to show some later game Clair Obscura Expedition 33. I'm going to be staying away from spoilers as much as possible. I know that some people have seen it anyway, but still I try. But I have an interactive map, an SKA who can swim through corals now, and some leveling up to do. Especially for the lads, as my go-to is the girl squad, and they're above the lads by at least 2 levels at this point. Because big things are about to happen in, like, main plot, and I need to be leveled up with all of them in case they decide to limit my party again. So I'll go adventuring in spots I haven't been able to access until now, or was too low level for, or whatever. All for your amusement. So until then, or until next, have a good one.